All right, all right. What is going on, everybody? How's everybody's morning going so far? How's your week going so far? I've got a super special guest here this morning. So excited to introduce you guys to her. And I will definitely let her share a little bit about her story. But real quick, just want to welcome you. If you've not been here to this call, this is our my weekly Tuesday live stream where we answer your questions. So if you've got any questions for myself and my special guest here, who is a very seasoned real estate agent, and she does a lot of business up in Canada, then definitely start putting those questions into the chat, and we'll get to them. I also have a lot of questions from last week that we didn't get a chance to get to, so we'll start with those in the meantime while we're getting some questions. But that being said, first thing I want to do is introduce you, Kate, and to bring you onto the call and let you maybe share a little bit about who you are. But before you do that, real quick, I just want to share how you and I kind of know each other. So we've been working here now at EXP together for a fefew years now, and you were one of my first agents to kind of partner with me way back in the day, besides like my local team here in San Antonio. And you're quite a pioneer in your market, in your area, I'll say that. And but it's been a lot of fun working with you, and you're doing some really special things up there. I know that you've been building your brand, building your team, but you're also a super seasoned agent. So that being said, I want to turn it over to you, let you share a little bit about your history and in real estate, and anything you're willing to share, and take us to today. Where are you at in your business today?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I guess I started in real estate in 2014, and I grew up around the business. My mom was a real estate agent, so it's always been in my blood, I like to say. So yeah, fast forward through two kids and a marriage, and now I'm with my team. Me and my business partner, we started our own brand here. When we joined EXP, we just wanted to be able to set ourselves apart, and EXP gave us the opportunity to do that with the branding we wanted. Like, we dove all in. We're like this powerhouse female team. We're pink and blue, and we've got six ladies now, and we've got a couple more joining us soon, which is really exciting. Um, Last year, I sold just about 16 million in real estate, 46 transactions, and our team did over 100 transactions. I think it was 112 or 118, something like that. And yeah, we're going for the gusto this year. We've been in a little bit of a down market here. We have not had the housing shortage with supply demand issues that you guys have been experiencing. But things are starting off really positive this year. And so my for a busy spring market, and we're trying to put all our processes and tools in place just so everything is super seamless when it's go time. So
I love it. I love it. Well, and one of the cool things, and I'd love for you to maybe touch on this a little bit, and actually one of the questions that I've got here queued up touches on this too. But it's I know here recently you've gotten some business from some local home builders in your area doing new construction type of stuff, right? And so I
yes.
get a lot of questions about like agents, looking to either break into that market and or basically just how does it work, all that kind of stuff. Is it worth it, all that. So it's like, real quick before we jump into the questions, maybe just share a little bit about that side of the business and what that looks like for you today.
Yes. So it's still fairly recent. I guess in the past half a year, I've partnered with a local builder here, and they built about 26 homes last year. We're pushing for 36 homes this year. Like I said, we're just starting to pick up in our market. I was interviewed. I actually had to do interviews for this position, and they handpicked agents that they wanted to work with, and then we did the interview process, and that's how it came to be. Um, I can answer
Yeah.
questions about the interview
Yeah.
process if you guys want, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's probably a little bit specific to what they're looking for. But it's been really, really good partnership. I love first of all, I love their product. They build really good quality homes. Their design is beautiful. They're a family run company, so I really support what they're all about. Like I'm behind their whole business, which I think is really important. Like I don't feel like I'm just out there slanging houses left, right, and center. Like I actually believe in the product and I'm like really proud to present them. And so it's just been a dream so far.
Yeah. Now, real quick, so going on the part where you said like they kind of hand selected some realtors that they wanted to interview, like
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of realtors in your market, but how were you one of the few that were even hand selected? Like you didn't approach them, or did you know somebody there? Like how did all that? They just found you through Instagram or through social media? Like what was it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they obviously knew realtors. They're from Grand Prairie. They had one in the past who was a family member, actually, who the position opened up because they were moving away to a different province. And so that's how the position came to be. And so the builders have been in Grand Prairie for quite a while. So they know the market and they know their realtors. So they picked the ones that they liked. And they did base a lot of it off the marketing because they really wanted someone who's going to present their properties, who's going to push their marketing, and who has a presence online to bring in buyers. So even though I probably wasn't the most highest producing agent that they interviewed, I did have one of the strongest social media profiles, I would say. And when I went to my interview, I went armed with all the stats and analytics that I could print off Facebook and Instagram. I put together like mock advertisings that I would do. I put together like a whole presentation portfolio. Um, I printed off new build stats for them. And so I really came prepared to the meeting. And I think that's what.
That would, yeah, that sealed the deal.
Mhm.
Nice. And so now that you've, been working with them for a little while now, like what have like some of your responsibilities or like your roles looked like? Like what do you have to do for this relationship with this builder?
It's actually, I thought it was going to be a lot, but we've got it down to a pretty good process. So we list the properties. So basically, I'm the listing agent, and we do, all the listing photos, virtual tour measurements, all that good stuff. So I would just treat it like a regular listing. We put it up on the MLS, and any leads that come from that, we bring any offers to the builder, and I mean it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. So now,
Yeah.
do you like, and you don't have to go, the details of specific, like how much you get paid on each one, but like, is it similar? Is it, do they just pay you like a flat fee type of thing to list them? Do you get potentially paid on the buyer side if you bring the buyer? Do you get paid on the listing side? Like, how does that kind of look?
Yep. So it's the way our commissions here is it's a percentage. So much on the first 100,000, so much on the remaining balance of the sale price. And so they offer a buyer and a seller commission. And on the list side, we have just a set percentage, and then it's full commission on the buyer side.
Gotcha. And so have you started to see like maybe since now you're doing these listings for this new construction, is it generating a lot of buyer leads, I would assume?
You know what? Yes, last year I my buyers made up about 25% of my business. Um, and then obviously through the end of that year up until the beginning of this year, that's where we're pushing for a lot of leads because now we've got a bank of listings that we can really work on and draw leads in from. And so that's what our team is doing. We're utilizing KV Core a lot more now to do that for our team as well, which is nice.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, we'll shift gears. And if you've got more questions, for Kate about new construction, about working with a builder, how to get started, all that type of stuff, definitely put them in the comments, and we'll get to them. That being said, though, I've got a few questions that we'll go ahead and start with from the audience that had asked here last time. So we'll go ahead and start with those until there's more questions asked. But let's see. So the first one here. Somebody had asked, do you make a P&L for your real estate business? And if so, how? So I guess, so somebody's wondering like, as far as tracking your finances, I can start, I'll start answering this one and then I'll kick it over to you, Kate, to see what you kind of do. But yeah, absolutely. I do. I do keep a P&L for my real estate business. I use QuickBooks online. I think that it's for me. I mean, it's hard for me to make any decisions without knowing the numbers first. So, I think it's one of those things like, yeah, I say it's imperative. I know that there's a lot of agents that don't, so I mean, obviously it's not. But for like my personality type, like I definitely think that it is because like I'll sit down, I sit down like this year, like so I got to start from like the big picture, right? So like when I do a business plan, I look at it like at the end of this year, and I look at like, okay, well, what did I spend in this, particular avenue? What do I want to spend on that avenue, for this next year? And then like when I have like big decisions, like I just hired somebody here in my business this year that's, significant salary. And I had to look like, where is that money going to fall in? Like, do I, because I don't want to hire somebody and then not be able to pay them or something, right? Like, and I don't want to be stressed out every time I pay somebody. It's the same thing for like if you're going to do like a lead generation source, or you're going to spend money on Facebook or Google or whatever you're going to spend money on. Like, it feels a lot easier if you've got the whole picture and you're like, okay, like I can commit to $1,000 a month because if I do the whole thing for the year, that's 12 grand. But I know that that falls into place here because I've got my P&L. Like I know, based on what my expenses have been, what I project them to be for this year. And like we don't know everything. Like I don't know exactly what I'll make this year, and I don't know some of these other, expenses that might come up, throughout the year. But the more information that I do have, it certainly makes making decisions a little bit easier, because otherwise, I mean, you're just kind of you kind of go by the seat of your pants, and I mean, a lot of times if that can work. Like I'm looking at Kate because I know she's like, this is me. Like I mean, it can work. You can definitely be a successful agent just by brute force and like doing it and like yeah, yeah, but like it's one of those things. Like for me, I like to be a little more methodical and like figure it out, that type of thing. And I guess it's maybe just for my sanity too. Like I think having a P&L, it gives me like a calmness, like a peace, right? Like knowing that like I've got a plan to go after. Um, and then also, like throughout the year, because I keep it's not like I just do my P&L like once a year. I usually do it at least, I try to do it monthly, but sometimes like I don't even do it at that. Like maybe it's like it rolls up to where it's like been 2 or 3 months, and I end up doing it like quarterly. But even still, that way I can get like a little dipstick measurement of like, well, where am I at so far this year? Like, am I on track? Am I spending too much in this particular category? That type of stuff. But the thing is, even with my P&L, I keep it super basic. I've actually got a couple of videos on my channel that talk about how I do my P&L. And I think, sometimes when P&L, like when people hear just that word, it's like, oh my gosh, it's intimidating, it's hard. I mean, really all you're doing is just categorizing your expenses, right? So like, and the less, like if you have, you don't need a ton of categories. I mean, stick with like 5 categories or 7 categories, like the biggest things, like, lead generation, what you pay your broker, so like stuff like that, like office expenses or supplies, like materials, just like big categories. And that way, because I've found at first I used to think like, oh, I need to break all this stuff out into like its own individual categories to be able to make more informed decisions. But when things are so broken out, it's actually harder to kind of like see the whole picture. And so I like to have, bigger categories but less of them. And then just, that helps me to know where I'm at, as far as like finances and stuff, which I think is a big part of your business. And so, yeah, I use QuickBooks. I've got a video, you can check it out. That's my take on it. I'm curious to hear now, Kate, what is your take on a P&L? And maybe it's not a P&L, but like what are you using to like make decisions or like anything to do with your finances? Like how does that look for you?
I'm a fly by the seat of your pantser, Kyle.
I love it. I
And
love
you know
it.
what? No, that is actually one of the portions of my business, and I'm the first to admit it. That is not my strong suit. I am strong in many other areas, but that is not one of them. Tracking and projecting is, and then of course investing, because that was my word for 2022 is invest, whether it's in myself or investments outside for second income, third income, things like that. So the step one is tracking, and I'm learning that. But this is the extent of my tracking. I pulled this out.
There you go. That's a
So
start.
you can, this is the track.
That's right.
Um, no, and I 100% agree. You need to know where your money's coming from and where it's going so that you can, maybe you have a bunch more space in your budget to put into Google or whatever it is for your lead generation or a second property that you want to buy, whatever it is, but you don't know that until you know your numbers. So
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this
learning.
then, because like, I mean, you've got to file your taxes just like us, here in the US every year, I'm sure, right? So like, what do you do for tax season? Well, you got to start putting all of your finances together somehow, right?
Oh yeah, so I have a grocery bag full of receipts and I sit on the floor and I categorize them and then I hand them in to my accountant.
Okay. See, so you
I
still
total them up at the end of the year. Yes.
Yeah, see, so you still have
No,
to do it, right? So it's not like, you're avoiding any like work by like just trying to keep track
no,
of it
no,
every
I'm
quarter or something. Like in
making it
fact,
even harder.
yeah, you're making it harder because then you like get to the end of the year and you're like, well, I don't remember what this receipt was for, or how, like it's really hard like when you're not in the habit of doing it regularly. And so that's the thing, as I always say, is like, yes, I mean, I know this stuff might seem daunting, but regardless, we all have to do it at some point, right? Like in our business. And it's just easier if you get in the habit of like, trying to get ahead of it versus doing it on the tail end. Because then if you get ahead of it, one, you can plan better. Like this all started like when I hired a CPA, and he wasn't just like a CPA. He called himself like a tax strategist. But what he told me, he said, Kyle, I'm not your typical CPA where I just, you come to me like April, our tax deadline's April 15th, you
Mhm.
come to me April 15th and I'm just going to like file your taxes. He's like, I want to meet with you quarterly throughout the year and, talk to you about ways that you can prepare yourself, set yourself up, because like on April 15th, it's too late to do anything for the previous year that's going to, help you save on your
Yeah.
taxes or whatever. If you're going to get any kind of benefit, you need to like be doing it that year. Like I need to know what you're doing that year. And so that got me in the habit of, all right, well, look, I need to share this with him. I want to be able to save. So like he's going to give me some advice, before the year is up so I can actually, make use of it. And so that's why I do it, And so I think, and then also now though, it's just helped me also like learn a little bit more about my real estate business, like in the moment of like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So which
Yeah.
which is like you said, it's an investment. Like, like we're making all of these investments consistently as real estate agents. You're just making constant investments, right? Like you're either, investing in yourself for education, you're investing in a lead generation source. And sometimes it's you maybe in the beginning you're not even investing money, but you're investing your time, right? And, how do we make informed decisions on where we should invest if we don't know the financials that back those decisions up, right? And so
Yep.
I think you can just, you can do well for sure as an agent without doing all of this stuff, but I think you can get where you want to get faster if you can get a little more strategic about it. Cause, like I look at it
And if
like,
it gives you peace, give me all the peace. I will do it.
that's right.
That right there. It is. It's chaotic if you're not tracking and you're
Yeah.
relying on your one day a year to figure it out.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, well, and I'll say too. I mean, it's one of those things where, like when you're not doing it all the time, it definitely seems challenging. But like, I'll promise you, like right now, because I'm just in the habit, even though I might only do it like once in 3 months or once in 2 months, it doesn't take me that long anymore because I'm just, it's so second nature for me now. So like, it's just one of those things, just like anything, that it takes a little practice. Like in the beginning, you're going to be learning all sorts of stuff, like how does QuickBook works, or how does QuickBooks work, or like whatever program you use,
Yeah.
like how do I categorize this stuff. But what you'll find eventually is like once you kind of get your get it straightened out a little bit, all of your stuff, it ends up getting categorized the same way. It's like you kind of know like, okay, I do this, I do that, I do this. And so now it's like I can go through like 2 or 3 months of data in like 45 minutes, and categorize everything, and then I can look at it, I can observe it. And yeah, so I mean, it gets a lot easier, but in the beginning, it is hard. Like I've tried, I talked to my mom about it. My mom is, constantly like that's her thing, is she's got so many different accounts. She's got so many different, like all these, different things that she's into. And when your finances are super complex, it seems daunting to even want to get started. So I think in the beginning, the easiest way to do it is like to try and simplify. And then for me, like I had, part of my process is I had to create a separate business credit card for like my business transactions. Because if you're keeping your business stuff with like your personal stuff,
Yeah.
that's a nightmare, you know? So like you'll find like all of these little hacks, these little tricks, you know, once you put it as like it's on your radar to get better at it, you'll find a way to get more efficient with it. So then it becomes easier. But like when you're not
Mhm.
thinking that way, it definitely seems daunting, you know, to even want to get started. But it is worth it. So yes, that was a good question. All right, let's jump to the next one. Somebody had asked, do you use a drip campaign for new leads? So, Kate, I'm sure you're familiar with a drip campaign, right? Like what that is, like email campaign,
Yes.
email sequencing. Okay, so I'll start. So my answer to that question is yes, I do. I do use a drip campaign. Maybe not in the way that most people do it. Um, you know, I look at like a drip email sequence as a way to indoctrinate a lead with who I am and what value I can offer to them. And so like for instance, if somebody were to be interested in partnering with me at EXP, and they sign up for one of my lead magnets, like one of my guides on being a real estate agent or something like that, right? They might have just hit my blog for the very first time, or they hit my YouTube channel for the very first time, watched the videos, like, oh, this is good. I'll get the freebie, the information that he sends, but they don't really know who I am, or they don't know all of my stuff. Like I get a lot of people that hit my blog and they don't know that I've got a YouTube channel. I get a lot of people that hit my YouTube channel that don't know I have a blog, right? And vice versa. And so like I use my email sequence, which is usually about 4 or 5 emails, to basically send that person the most important information they need to know about me or about working with me, or that I just feel is helpful for them, like some of the most helpful things that are helpful in their lives. I send that out in the first like 4 to 5 emails for everybody. And then after that, I don't do any more drips to them. Then they go on to what's called my broadcast email list, where at that point, like anytime I create new content, they just get an email with whatever that new content piece is. But I think in the beginning, having something that like just gets people on the level playing field, that they know all that you can do and do for them, I think it's really important. I've noticed since I've used email sequences for my business, that I've definitely gotten more people that want to like reach out to me, that want to build a relationship with me. Whereas, in the beginning, like I felt like I always had to prospect, like I was always doing like the bulk of the work, and I still prospect now, but my email does a lot for me. So like
Mhm.
how this might look for buyers, like if you're a real estate agent, you're like, well, Kyle, but I'm not, looking to, work with agents right now or something like that. You're like, how does this work for buyers and sellers? Like figure out, number one, if you have any pieces of content that you can share with people to show your expertise. I think that that's one of the coolest things, is that you can not only provide value to your potential client, but then also you are like put on a pedestal that you're the expert now in this particular thing. So they may not have seen that piece of content before, but now that you sent it to an email, they do. They are like, oh, he thinks of me. He's given me this thing to help me. But then also they see you as the expert. So like figure out like 2 or 3 pieces of content that you've maybe produced, or if you need to produce it, go make it. It could be a blog, it could be a video, it could be a podcast, anything like that. That shows your expertise, but it also really helps the person. But then also have one that just maybe shares a little bit about yourself, right? Like allows them to connect with you. If you're on social media, like maybe they don't know you're on Instagram, maybe they don't know you're on Facebook, right? So put like, hey, I like for people to know that I'm a real person, and because sometimes, especially if you start creating content like on YouTube or Facebook, you seem almost like unapproachable, or like you're not like a real person or something, where it's just like, no, like, hey, like go connect with me on Instagram. Like I'm the same, I'm just a regular person. You can, DM me, you can message me, like, like that way people can feel connected, like a sense of connection with you. And so like having like 4 like really thought out emails of like what you want to say to somebody when they first interact with you, and you just got to assume that that person doesn't know much about you, and if they do, it's fine to still send them that email. Like, they'll get it, they're like, oh, I already know this, I already know that. But I'm more concerned with all the people that don't know me. And so like if you're going after like Facebook leads, Google pay-per-click leads, a lot of those people don't know who you are. They might have seen your ad, they might have, signed up as a lead. They still don't know who you are. So it's super important that they get that stuff from you. But now keep in mind, that's not like that's not your end all be all. You still got to, call them, text them. You can't just like, oh, well, they're on my email sequence. I don't need to do anything with them. Like that's just that goes on in the background, but you still need to, prospect with them when they come in. So that said, Kate, what's your take on that? Do you have any kind of a process for new leads when they come in through email or anything else?
Yeah, so where do I start? I was using, someone asked to use KV Core, yes. I first started using it very surface level, and anyone can use it, but I urge you to take the training. They've updated it, it's not so long and boring, they've cut it down to size. Um, but for my drip campaigns, I started off super easy. I would do um, ads through the system, and when someone came in, it would have the little hashtag or whatever, and then you have an email sequence to go out to those people. And so they weren't very long. If they came in for a certain property, my email sequence would include, the open house. You looked at this online, we're having an open house. Now our team is kind of graduating to the next step of KV Core and kind of diving more into these situational email sequences. So we're categorizing the leads that come in, as renters or sellers, really kind of like niching them down and then having more specific sequences go out to those people. So it's, like you said, of more value to where they're at in their life, what they're looking for. So it's not just generic stuff that's going to get ignored. We're adding video to our email sequences because the view rate and the open rates are so much more. And so included in that is, for our team, a general newsletter that's going to go up once a month. So everyone will get that, and that'll be like our base touch for everyone that goes out. And then depending how you came into the system or where you're at or what your needs are, we're going to have a specific email sequence that we're just putting together right now, actually, for what you need.
Nice. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things I'll say, because I'm sure a lot of agents are like, man, like this might seem a little complicated or difficult to like, especially when you start segmenting your list and you have, people coming in that are buyers and sellers and renters, and you're starting to think like, man, I got to create all these different emails, I got to create all this different content. It can seem a bit overwhelming. But what I'll say to that is, in the beginning, create just one that everybody gets, so at least you're not missing anybody. But then, of course, like the more segmented and the more targeted you can get, like if you can get people that come in and like what they're interested in, and let's say it's different than maybe a different audience that you have, then yeah, that then you can break off and do one for them, and then break off and do another one. So like definitely the more that's gonna be more effective the more that you can do it. But just having one at least I think is super key. And
Yep.
so yeah, that's what I
And
found. Yeah.
we can't segment them until we actually make contact with them, right? Because we need to know, they need to answer, oh, I'm looking for next year, I'm moving to town. So it doesn't cut out the need to make contact first. Um, just to put that out there.
Yep.
You need to make calls or do your touches or whatever you do.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so like then with that being said, like I would assume then like your stuff is pretty customized. Like you're not using any like stock stuff that KV Core has like for buyers or sellers or like or are you? Like what are you finding there?
That's all we were using
Yeah.
up until now, and now we're starting to like get more specific and brand our content, because we want our emails to be, our
Yep.
brand voice. We want our videos to be us. We want our newsletter to be us. So we're really customizing our content now. But up until now, all the stuff that's in there is great. You can use it. You can tweak it. It'll get you going and it'll get leads coming in. KV Core is awesome. I can't say enough good things about it.
I love that. I love that. Well, here you mentioned something, and I want to. I don't have a particular question on this, but I've got a question about it because I know this was also on your radar a bunch last year, and and it still is this year. But like your branding, like I mean, you obviously you put a big effort on that last year, and I think that you've done a great job. I think that your branding, yeah, I think it definitely stands out, and so talk a little bit about just, that side, like what specifically did you all have to create for for your brand per se? Because a brand can be so big, but like what were some of the biggest key things that you had to do to really like rebrand yourself essentially?
Um, well, for us, it was more than just like what do we want our signs to look like? We wanted to be a fully developed brand. So, mission statement, core values. What are we doing in the community outside of what's important to us? Just so that our messaging is all the same, and obviously. Um, Supporting local is super important to us, and so that's kind of where the name came from, was Local Real Estate Collective. We also wanted to be a collective because we're a very different structured team, and so we wanted everyone to have a voice and to have an equal position in our team, and so we felt the collective kind of brought that together. um, and so, yeah, my partner and I, we worked with a brand strategist at the very beginning, um, to really strip down everything into what like our main goal was going to be, who our niche client was going to be, what our messaging was going to be. And then from there, my partner's amazing with Canva and design and all that stuff. So we picked our colors and we went through so many different versions of our logo and we just landed on one. And yeah, and now everything that we put out there supports what our main goal was, supports what our core values are. We highlight local businesses. We support other local women in business in our town specifically, as that was important to us. And we're a group of like working women. We're moms. Some of us are wives, girlfriends. So we just create that collaborative community, which was again really important to us in our message and our team. So
If somebody was wanting to like kind of just see, like what your brand looks like where's like the best place to kind of follow you or to like just kind of see what you're doing? Is it on Instagram? Is it on Facebook? Is it your website? Like where do you, mostly see your branding?
yes. So our team is on Instagram and Facebook, just at the local, no, at Local Real Estate Collective, not the, or my page. You can link to there, at real estate underscore with Kate. But yeah, just look up Local Real Estate Collective on Instagram or Facebook and you'll find us
Yeah,
and you'll see our stuff.
I think it's awesome because I mean that's one of the things that like early on in my career I was kind of like branding, yeah, it's like whatever, like it's no big deal. Like I didn't think it was, I didn't know how important it was. It wasn't that I didn't like that I thought it wasn't important. I just was like, it's not a big deal. But now I'm like, it is a big deal. Like, in real
Mhm.
estate, like what branding does, what I've found that it does for you when you have a cohesive branding, like where, like your colors are, on point, people kind of just, there's a theme behind you or behind your team or whatever it is. When you have that cohesiveness with it, like your brand works for you 24/7. Like that's the coolest thing about a brand. And I never really put two and two together. Like I was just that agent that was like spinning on the hamster wheel, like just constantly just trying to like work, 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 work. But then I was like, there's a smarter way to do it. And it's so weird to think that like the brand, like branding can be that answer, but it really can, because as people start to see your brand, everything that you do starts stacking on top of itself. And so then like things that you branded, months ago or even a year ago or more, when people see that cohesiveness, they're like, oh, I still remember this person, or I saw that person, or you start to just like be in somebody's head, right? You're in their mind all the time. And then they, reach out. Whereas like if you're not branded cohesively, you might have done stuff, months ago or whatever, but it just gets lost in the noise if that brand isn't, constantly being brought up in front of the person. So I think that's the coolest thing about branding, and why it is so important, even if you're just a new agent, early in your career, to really, put some effort to it. It's not like the end of the world. Like it's not like you whatever you pick today is going to be your brand forever. Like you can change, you can rebrand and stuff like that. But you have to have some thought into like, what you want to do. Think of your colors, think of like your just, overall branding strategy.
Mhm.
Canva is a great tool, like you said. I think it's, I used to use Photoshop, and oh my gosh, like for an agent just to try and do
So
Photoshop,
hard.
it was like giving me like a headache, right? Like, I mean, I'm a tech person and I hate, I can't use
Oh,
Photoshop.
it's
It's so difficult for me. Canva though, like that's like dummy proof. Like I feel like I'm
hmm,
like, I can do Canva, like drag, drop, it
awesome.
takes the backgrounds out for me. Like it's so easy, right? And yeah, so I feel like, just working with that a little bit, like, and putting some effort towards it, will really go a long way. So, cool. All right. I appreciate that on the branding side. All right. So this next question, and guys, if you got any other questions, definitely put them in there. We've got about another 20 minutes or so here, so we got some time to answer your questions, whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on Facebook. But we're going to jump into the next question that says, "Do you pay for leads? If so, who do you use?" So I'll start the answer on there. Um, Basically, I do. I have paid for leads. I don't currently, but I am not opposed to it by any means. But now I've built my business more on the content side, SEO, organic traffic. But I will say that side takes time to get going, right? Like, I mean, I've been creating YouTube videos and blog posts for 2 years now or more. And it took a while, I'd say 9 months to a year at least, before it provided any results. And certainly in that time, I was willing to pay for leads. And for me, I felt Google pay per click was the best service for me, just because when compared to like Facebook, for instance, I'm more of like quality over quantity. With Facebook, you can definitely get a lot more leads for the same price as a Google lead. Um, but the intent is different. Like with Facebook, you're coming across their news feed and they may not be interested in real estate, but then your ad caught their attention. They clicked it, they register or whatever. Whereas like a Google lead, this is somebody that's going to Google. They're typing like homes for sale in San Antonio, and then your ad comes up and then they click, right? So that somebody that's doing that, if they're taking action of like, hey, searching, homes for sale, typically they're a little closer to wanting to purchase than just somebody
Mhm.
on Facebook, right? And so I mean, that was my thing, was like I wanted leads that were more ready to commit right away, and even though they were more expensive, I liked working with fewer leads because I could put more into them than having like a bunch of leads that I had to kind of sort through. They both work. Like Facebook certainly can work. You can certainly turn a positive return on investment with Facebook leads,
Mhm.
but Google is what I preferred. Kate, have you had any experience with paying for like any type of leads, whether it be Facebook or Google or anything like that?
Yes. I usually will boost on like Instagram or Facebook, but I find there's so many ways to get leads for free on Facebook that I prefer to put my money in things like Google or like the Property Boost and KV Core, things like that. Um, Marketplace on Facebook is the easiest, best place for us here anyway, to get free leads. And those leads where the buyers just want to see the place. That's all they want. We want to
Yep.
look at this place. Then you get them in your system. You start, maybe they're ready now, maybe they're not. You start putting them in your system. But yeah, super easy to get a ton of leads. Like you said, you never know what kind of quality you're getting, but um, Google, I find, like you said, is kind of the best for quality people ready now, searching with a purpose.
Yep. We got one question that just came in here. It says, "What's a good starting budget for Google pay per click? I'm using Making It Rain, but want to try Google pay per click." Well, first off, I need to check. So I thought Making It Rain was using Google. If I'm
I
remembering
don't know. I haven't
correctly,
used that.
is it Facebook? Okay. Or I didn't
I
know.
haven't used
Oh
it. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. You might want to look. I think Making It Rain does use Google pay per click, but in my opinion, I don't know though that Making It Rain is what I would use moving forward. I've kind of here recently, especially learned a little bit more about Making It Rain, but I've also learned about Inside Real Estate, which is KV Core. So KV Core has their own service where they'll do your Google pay per click campaigns for you, and I believe it's a less expensive option to go through Inside Real Estate. So like if you're in KV Core and you go to the marketplace, on that marketplace you'll see Making It Rain in there, but then you'll also see one that says like Google pay per click advertising or something like
Mhm.
that, and that's Making It Rain, or that's KV Core's version of setting up your Google pay per click campaigns for you. and they do it for a 10% management fee. Whereas I think KV Core, or I mean, Making It Rain is quite a bit more expensive than that. And so what that means is, like, let's say that you decide that your monthly ad spend is $1,000. With Inside Real Estate, $100 goes towards paying them to manage your campaigns, but $900 goes towards your ads. And I think that that split is quite a bit different. It's a little bit higher if you're using it, Making It Rain. And so, what I would recommend, as far as, I mean, a good starting budget is, I mean, it's got to be something that you're comfortable with. For me, like, I would say my total, like, marketing budget is usually about 10 to 15% of what I estimate my annual revenue should be, right? So, like, if I'm, making $200,000 a year in real estate, I would like to spend about 30 grand or so on advertising throughout the year. And so, use that for what it's worth. If you're a new agent, you're not making anything. You're like, well, then what do I spend? I think in that case, you got to use, it's going to be different for every person. Like, do you have a lot of money banked away and saved up to where, you could invest and it's not going to be stressful? Are you living paycheck to paycheck now and you're going to, like, invest in Google ads and it's going to make it even more stressful? Like, I think that all depends, right? So, like, your situation
I
might be
think the
different.
minimum for that managed one is 750
I believe so.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, yeah, Kate's right. The minimum for the KV Core one, the Inside Real Estate, is 750. And so, but I would say, if you've got that kind of, money to invest, to do it, 750, I think you'll definitely get a positive return. Most markets, I believe, you're going to spend anywhere from about $15 to $30 a lead through Google. And so if you're spending 750, and let's just assume that, say, 675 of that's going towards leads, you're probably walking away with like 25 to 30 leads per month, right? And with Google, if you follow up with the leads, like, you've got to work them still. They don't just automatically convert to closings. I've found that usually anybody can close about 4 to 8% of your deals that come through as a Google pay-per-click lead, right? So that'd be like 4% would be 1 out of 25. 8% would be like 1 out of 12. And so if you're getting 25 to 30 leads a month, you're going to get, a deal to 2 deals, which, I mean, if you're spending 750 and your average commissions, $8,000 or something like that, it's worth it, even after you pay your broker split and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's going to have a positive ROI, but you just need to make sure that you're comfortable with the money that you're spending. You're willing to, it's not going to, and that's the thing though, it's not going to turn into a positive ROI month one. You're probably going to have to work for 5-6 months before you really start to see the profit, but then, it'll be a consistent profit thereafter. So you got to make sure you're ready for that. And whatever you commit to, that you're going to commit to it for at least, I say at least, 6 months, but really it should be at least a year. Like, if you're going to commit to 750, just say, look, I'm committing to 750, and that's like, I'm going to end up probably spending $9,000 this year, on leads. Just, bank it away for 12 months. And, and think about it. And so, I mean, $9,000, that's like a closing, right? And so it's like, if you can get a closing after 12 months of doing Google pay-per-click, you should definitely do it. And if you haven't, then you definitely should stop.
And also, like we said earlier, real estate is an investment, whether it's your time or your money. And if you're working with no budget, you best believe that you have to make the time to invest to learn to do Google Ads, because you can learn to do them. You can learn to use your KV Core, and you can generate leads for yourself. You can do the exact same work. So if you're like, I don't have any business, but I don't have any money, then you have time to learn. And there's training on Google, there's training on YouTube, there's training on KV Core, and that's how you can get your start. That's how you can get your first lead, your second lead. That banks rolls your money so that you can start sending out this job to someone else once you start getting more leads in, or,
Yep,
someone.
for sure. Sean asks, he says, hey there, what provider are you using for streaming YouTube Live, StreamYard, Streamlabs? Actually, Sean, I am using Ecamm Live. As far as like the software to capture the video, and then I send that to Restream.io, and within Restream, I've got my YouTube channel and I've got my Facebook account connected. And so from there, I can send it out to both services. I could even send it out to LinkedIn. I could send it out to a few other ones. So I use Ecamm to basically capture the video how you see it here. You can put the overlays and make it look how it looks. But then Restream is just kind of the middleman that takes the feed that Ecamm comes from Ecamm and sends it to the destinations that you want it to send it to. So hope that makes sense. All right, Kate, I won't ask your take on that, right? I don't think you have much to add on that particular aspect. All
A
right,
pass.
pass. All right. Let's see here. Okay. What do you do to update a seller on a listing that isn't selling? So we've all had those, right? Like you get a listing and and it's just not selling. You're doing everything you can, and but no matter what, it's either just not getting. I mean, this market, it's been tougher to get something like that where it doesn't. But even now, if the price is too high, if the house is just not very nice, it can happen, right? And I mean, we can only ask for so many price reductions. Sometimes sellers don't want to do it. Or, how in a nice way do you tell a seller like their house is not very pretty or it needs to be cleaned up? Like, there's all these awkwardness, these moments. What of that, like, Kate, have you experienced? Like, what do you
Yeah.
do in those situations? Is there like a couple tips that you've got or like a story or anything like that?
I would say if you get feedback for your showing, use that as much as you can because those people are going to be honest and you can be like, I'm just the messenger. Don't hurt
Yeah.
me. But honesty is always the best policy. You're going to get better results. You're going to have more sales if you just have these frank conversations. Listen, your cat litter box really stinks. It turned these buyers off. Let's clean up the cat litter box. If you need some help, I have some cleaners for you. If you want me to book that for you, absolutely, I can do that. Or, it's been sitting for a long time and it comes down to condition and price. If it's, been sitting for a very long time, then you just have the conversation with them. Here's your options. Bam. You take it off the market. You stay where you are. If you're happy with that, let's wait. Maybe you need to rent it out. Maybe we need to paint it. Whatever the situation is, I think always honesty is the best policy. They're coming to you. You're the professional. You have to play that role and be that professional because we can't always have the most perfect listing, picture perfect magazine property. Um, I'm
Yeah.
pretty like cut and dry when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Do you have like a timeline or like, do you update your sellers like weekly, monthly? Like what's kind of, do you have a certain process or is it just like you wait for them to talk to you or like how do you handle that?
Um, I check in with my sellers, after every showing, we'll share the feedback. Um, I'm pretty much in contact with them weekly. And if a property went up in their neighborhood, I'm sending them their competition. If one's sold, I'm showing them what it's sold for. So it's really an active conversation that's ongoing. Um, and they'll talk to you if you've been leaving it too long in there and it's been on the market. They'll tell you what the hell is going on or what can I do. The best is when they ask what can I do
Hmm.
because you can tell them, hey, we need to get a cleaner in there, we need to paint, we need to do this, whatever the situation is. But
Yeah. No, and I think it's important for as agents, you to have a few tricks up your sleeve as far as like things that you can try. Like maybe, you don't just like do everything that is in your marketing plan like day one, like hold a couple things back. That way it's like, after something's not selling, you can like try, doing this. And it might just be like little small tweaks, but that way when you do that, you can share that. That way it's like something fresh with your seller and say like, look, this week, this is what we did. We pushed it onto, this platform, or this week we ran an ad about this, or this week we did this, right? Like if they see that you're not just like sitting on it, because that's what in a lot of times in sellers' mind, they might start to think, right? If it's not selling, they're thinking, oh, well, you're not doing anything. And in a lot of
oh,
cases, maybe a lot of agents are not doing anything, right? Like they just put it in the MLS and then they stop doing stuff. And it's like, you got to show them that, hey, like, I'm working with you. Like, because like that's, I think when a seller doesn't want to lower a price, or if they don't want to do something to help help you sell it, it's usually because like they're like, well, I don't see you doing anything, and it's like you don't want to get in that
yeah.
situation. Like, like let them know you're working hard for them. Like, because if they believe that you're working for their best interest, they'll take your feedback, better. They'll be willing to, go with your recommendations easier. But it's when, there's that disconnect if they think that like you're just trying to ask them for a price drop because you don't want to do any more work. You just want the seller to do essentially all the work and drop the
Oh,
price, right? So, Yeah.
That's actually we do our team has like weekly update emails. So it's like you've had this many showings this week. Here's a recap of the feedback. Here's the ads. Here's how they're performing. And it just shows, like how many views we've had. And then obviously like open houses, stuff like that. You can say we've had this many people in today. This is what the feedback was. Here's what the negatives were. Always just asking for the feedback. I think the most we can do is arm ourselves with as much information as possible.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Cool. Yeah, I mean, and even like, I mean, like I've done things even as small as like, I'll change the key image, right? Like if it's like, you might have like one of like the front of the house and maybe they've got a pool and then maybe you switch it up and just, show the back, just anything to like really just change it up, even if it's every week, right? Just to say like, hey, this is what we did. That way they know you're like on it, right? Like you're still trying stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be monumental things like you're running new ads every single week or whatever. If you want to do that, great. But like, but yeah, it doesn't have to be huge. So yeah, I think just as long as the dialogue is ongoing, communication is key. Like Kate said, that's gonna go a long way with most homeowners. So cool. All right, let's see here. We've got what do you do with a bunch of older internet leads? So I've been in this situation before. I don't know if Kate, if you've dealt with this, but like I mean, I had been generating Google leads for gosh like a solid 8 years, right? So sometimes you get to the point where it's like you've got these leads and they're just old and you don't know what to do, and like sometimes you're like I don't know if I should just delete them though. Like they're that's potential like money on the table, right? Like and you get so scared to like
Problem.
delete them. Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. Yeah. So what I would say, like, is I mean, I've been at the point where like my database used to be like I had like 10,000 leads, like 10,500 leads in it, I think was at the height. And it's like, well, how do you call each one? Well, you can. In fact, I mean, especially with like if you have KV Core, if you're with EXP, they've got a dialer built into the system, and that might sound daunting, like 10,000 leads, but and maybe it is like in the beginning if you're not used to like dialing a lot of leads. But like with some dialers, people can dial 200 numbers in an hour, right? Like so 10,000 that would go by really fast actually if you have like a triple line dialer with like Red X or something like that. With like Mojo, I mean with KV Core, if you're on a single line dialer, you can still call like 50, 40 to 50. It all depends on how many connects you're getting. So if you got a lot of accurate information and people are answering their phones and they are who they put down on the phone that they are, you might not get through that many because you'll actually be having conversations. But you'll be so surprised. I mean, even with 10,000, like how many wrong numbers, and if you're not like going through them when they come through, you're not scrubbing it really well, you're going to deal with a lot of that. So then you're just going to be cleaning the list. But you got to be willing to throw away some of those people too. Like I mean, if you can't get in touch with them, if it's bad information, even if it's like, oh well, I've got their email, but their phone number is bad, but you've tried emailing them like 6 times and they haven't. Well, but maybe a year from now they'll respond to that email. No, just like in my opinion, get rid of it. Like if you already like been emailing for the past 7 years, like probably nothing's gonna change next year.
Yeah.
It's like maybe I mean you always hear about those people that's like, oh well, like I got a lead that registered 8 years ago. It's like in my mind though, that kind of stuff just takes up way too much space in my head. It's better for me to like move on to the new and like and just clean it, have it be as like efficient of a database as
Yeah.
possible than just like hoping that this like, and then you end up keeping all these other ones because you're like, well, maybe that's the same thing for this person. And then it's like, no, it needs to be like cut and dry. Like if it's been a long time, these leads are old, give it like one shot if you haven't done it. And, but don't do something where it's going to take
You
you a
can
ton of
do
time.
like a mass text or a mass email. Hey, I'm cleaning up my database. You clicked on my website.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, are you looking to buy or sell or whatever it is, right? Send it to mass text. People who get back to you, keep them, and then just move forward.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, for sure. And you'll be surprised. I mean, like, let's say that you sent that out to 1,000 people. I mean, even if it's like 30 people respond, I would rather only keep those 30 people than have 1,000 people. Like it just, you'll find
Yeah.
over time having, like a cleaner, a better, spot to work at. It's like my office, like, like I can't work in my office if it's dirty. Like I like, like my desk to be cleaned off. Like if it's, I know there's a lot of different people that's like, oh, like, like for me though, like it's just like, I got
Yeah.
to have a clean database for me to
Yeah.
want to go into and my database is dirty. If I've got all these leads and it's just like not organized, I don't even want to get started, like I don't even want to work it. And
Yep.
I'd rather it be clean and be something that I want to be in. And that's, so that I think, yeah, so you can use a couple tools. You could use like, like do a dialer yourself. Or if you've got more money than time, you can hire, there's a lot of services like virtual, like ISA services that could call all of your 10,000 leads and scrub them for you and then just
Yep.
present you the best leads that still exist, right? So like Power ISA, that's a good one. Virtue Desk is another good one. Call
Clear
10.
Desk, I think they have virtual assistants for like $5 an hour or something like
Who's
that.
that?
Clear Desk.
ClearDesk. Okay, ClearDesk. So there you go. So yeah, virtual assistants. I mean, give them a super simple script, right? Like something that they would say if they get somebody connected, and really all they're doing is just scrubbing. So even if it's like they only return you back, 2, 3, 4% of the people that you initially sent in, that's okay, right? Like that's what you wanted to do. You wanted to get rid of the ones that you don't want on your database
Yeah,
anymore.
quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
quality. And so it's the same thing for me, like on my email list, basically like at this point, I've got just for like my agent email list, I get about 1,000 to 1,200 new emails every month. And so my email list is growing, huge right now. Like I probably think I've got about 10,000 emails in my email list. But the cool thing about that is those are 10,000 like active ones because basically every 3 months I go through it and I can look in my software of like who's not opened the email here in the last, 2, 3 months. So at that point, I send out one email and I say, hey, I don't want to bother you any, if you're not enjoying these emails, no worries. You don't have to do anything. I will remove you. But if you'd like to stay on my list, click this button and I'll make sure that I don't unsubscribe you. And what's so funny, I don't know if it's funny or if it's bad, but like let's say that like I send that out to 500 people, literally like 2 people click the link, right? Like to stay on the list. So I mean, it's very few people that are actually going to want to if they're not like it's these are people that
But
I'm
it's
sending.
the right people. It's
It's the
finding the right
right
people.
people, right? And that's the thing is because like for me, I would rather have a list, a super engaged list of 100 people than like a super unengaged list of 10,000, right? Like, so I think that's just, what you have to think about. And it's the same thing, like if you're, constantly emailing people, this is actually like a part where this could hurt you if you're not cleaning and you're not scrubbing your lists consistently is like a lot of these email providers, they'll mark your stuff as spam if your email rates are not very high, right? So if you consistently keep emailing people and they're not opening your stuff and they're not engaging with it, your emails are going to start getting flagged more frequently, and then that's going to hurt your emailing rates moving forward. So like for me, like before I would start like actively cleaning my list, my email open rates were like 20% usually, like 1 out of 5. Since I've been cleaning my lists now, my email open rates are getting up to close to 45%. So they're usually between 40 to 40, which is very high
That's
for an
amazing.
email open rate. And so, yeah, but it's just because I actively clean it, I scrub it, consistently now. And so I think that's just the general take you've got to do with some of these older expired or, some not expired, but just older leads that maybe you haven't contacted is give them a shot. If they, just assume a lot of them are not going to stay, in there, but, be willing to open it up if somebody does raise their hand and then move on to the new stuff. I think that's kind of how you got to do it. But all right. Well, cool, guys. Well, that's the top of the hour. Kate, I just want to say, before we sign off, thank you so much for jumping on here.
Oh, my pleasure. Hopefully, I was helpful.
You absolutely were. You absolutely were. If anybody wants to connect with you or get more in touch, with you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Instagram at real estate underscore with Kate. That's where you can find me.
I
That's where I'm
love it.
most active. So
I love it. Very cool. Well, guys, thank y'all so much. And if you're watching this on the replay, or if you are watching this even live right now and you still got a question, throw it in the comments, and then that's how I prep the next call. So I'll add it in, and then we'll answer it for the next one. So make sure to be here next Tuesday, same time, 11 o'clock. And if you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up button, give this video a like. That really helps out my channel, my videos. There we go, the thumbs up. Yeah, hit that thumbs up button and make sure too to subscribe. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, I provide new videos every week. We go live every Tuesday. And yeah, I look forward to answering your questions on our next call. Thank you again, Kate. We'll talk to everybody later. Have a great day.
yeah.